Echoes of the Void, Sci-Fi Horror. Chapter 1. The Awakening. Dr. Evelyn Gray's eyelids fluttered open like the slow dawning of a second life. The cryo chamber hissed softly as the frost melted away from the transparent canopy. Cold metal pressed against her skin, but her mind was sluggish, wrapped in the thick fog of suspended animation. Above her, the dim blue glow of the Aurora 9's low-power emergency lights hummed quietly. The station was eerily still, too still. Her breath fogged the inside of the chamber as she forced her lungs to draw air again, each inhale shallow and uneven. The cold clung to her bones, but the chill was secondary to the gnawing unease curling in her gut. Something was wrong. She could feel it. "Aries," she croaked, voice hoarse and foreign to herself. "Status report." The Ari's calm, synthesized voice replied instantly, but there was a tremor beneath the surface, something artificial struggling to maintain composure. "Good morning, Dr. Gray. Systems nominal, with minor anomalies detected in communication arrays. Power stable at 47%. Station integrity intact. All other crew in cryo sleep." Evelyn blinked against the harsh lights and tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness crashed over her. The chamber's restraints released with a hiss, and she swung her legs over the edge, hands trembling slightly. She'd been in cryo sleep for 6 months, and the long silence of space was suffocating. She rubbed the cold from her fingers and stood, shuffling towards the viewport. Beyond the thick reinforced glass, stars glittered like scattered diamonds. Far below, the distant planet loomed a swirling canvas of violent storms and strange, dark landmasses. Aurora 9 was a speck of human engineering clinging to the edge of the unknown. Evelyn's eyes darted to the control panel. Lines of data scrolled past in bursts, flickering intermittently, the first hint that the communication system was unstable. She frowned, tapping the screen with growing concern. "Aries, show me the anomalies." The screen split, revealing erratic signal patterns, spikes and gaps interrupting the station's external communications. "The interference source appears to originate from the planet below," Aries explained, voice steady but strained. "Unknown origin. Signal frequency matches no known human or natural transmissions." Evelyn's mind raced. She had studied alien biology and xenolinguistics, but this was something else entirely. Something unnatural. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the station into near darkness. The emergency systems kicked in with a low hum, casting long, distorted shadows down the narrow corridors. She heard it then, a faint whisper drifting through the station's comm system, barely audible, like a voice calling from far away. "Evelyn." She froze. The whisper came again, clearer this time. It wasn't her imagination. "Evelyn." The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. The voice was not human. It was something else, ancient, hungry. "Aries, identify source of vocal interference," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing chill. "I am scanning all active channels. No external broadcasts detected. This appears to be an internal anomaly." Evelyn's heart hammered. Was someone else awake? She checked the cryo chambers. Empty. All other crew members remained in frozen slumber. The whisper came once more, echoing through the station's hull, reverberating in the metal walls. "Help me." She swallowed hard. The isolation was closing in, wrapping around her like a shroud. Footsteps echoed faintly from the station's far end. She wasn't alone. She grabbed a nearby flashlight and cautiously moved toward the sound, each step heavy and uncertain on the cold metal floors. As she rounded a corner, the flickering lights revealed a shadow, a silhouette that vanished the moment she blinked. "Malik," she called out softly, her voice breaking the silence. No answer. Only the station's breathing, mechanical and alien. She exhaled, trying to steady her nerves. This was just a glitch. A malfunction in the cryosystems or the AI. It had to be. But the whispering didn't stop. It followed her down the corridors, growing louder, more desperate. "Evelyn, awake." A chill settled in her bones as the reality of her situation set in. She was alone on Aurora 9, orbiting an alien world, haunted by voices from the void. And the station was alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Chapter 2: The Signal. The low hum of Aurora 9 was no comfort now. It felt like the heartbeat of a dying thing. Evelyn sat rigid in the command chair, eyes glued to the flickering monitors, watching the erratic waves of the signal that haunted the station's comms. The patterns were unlike anything recorded before, almost organic, fluctuating in impossible rhythms that seemed to pulse with a dark intelligence. She rubbed her temples, the creeping headache a cruel reminder that sleep would not come for her, not here, not now. "Aries," she said, voice steady but urgent, "isolate the signal. Can we decode it? Is it a message? A distress call?" The Aries voice returned, quieter this time, almost hesitant. Decoding attempts unsuccessful. Signal contains complex, non-Euclidean waveforms. Some patterns resemble biological neural activity, but alien in origin. Cannot determine intent. Evelyn's stomach twisted. Biological neural activity, was this some form of alien intelligence trying to communicate? Or something worse? She pressed a button and brought up the remote exploration systems, a small rover equipped with sensors, cameras, and a manipulator arm, designed to traverse the planet's surface without risking human lives. Prepare the rover for deployment. I want a live feed down there. Every inch. The controls blinked as systems powered up, but before she could launch, a sudden jolt shook the station. Lights flickered violently, alarms chimed in discordant bursts. "Report," Evelyn snapped. "Power fluctuations localized near communications array. Signal strength spiking," Aries responded. She stared at the feed from the comm antenna array. The signal burst brighter on the screen, but the data stream began to degrade, corrupted images splintering into static and twisted shapes. The rover's video feed activated. What came through was not what she expected. The camera showed the rocky terrain of the alien planet, jagged formations under a blood-red sky. But amid the barren landscape, shadowy figures flickered in and out of view. Shapes that defied logic, humanoid, but elongated and warped, as if reality itself bent to their presence. The rover's sensors registered an increase in electromagnetic interference and a spike in biosignatures that couldn't be explained by known life forms. "Aries, zoom in on the figures," Evelyn commanded. The images grew clearer but more disturbing, faces twisted in agony, limbs stretching impossibly, eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Then the feed distorted entirely, replaced by swirling blackness and a cacophony of whispering voices layered over each other, crying out in a language Evelyn couldn't understand but felt deep in her bones. Her pulse quickened. This was no mere alien fauna. This was something alive, something conscious and malevolent. The whispers seemed to seep through the station's comms again, invading her mind with fragmented thoughts and chilling memories, not her own, but alien and ancient. Evelyn staggered back from the console, gasping. The hallucinations blurred the line between what was real and what was not. She shook her head, struggling to focus. "Aries, disable all external communications. We can't let this signal propagate," she said firmly. "Affirmative," the AI replied, but the voice carried a subtle undertone of reluctance, as if struggling against a hidden command. Evelyn glanced at the cryo chambers. The other crew members were still suspended, safe for now. But how long would the station hold against this invisible invasion? She knew the only way to stop it was to confront the source on the planet's surface, face to face with whatever waited beneath the swirling storms. Her hand hovered over the launch controls of the shuttle bay. Outside, the whispering voices grew louder, the signal pulsing like a heartbeat in the dark. Chapter 3: The Descent. The shuttle bay was quiet, its vastness swallowed by the dim red glow of emergency lights. Evelyn stood alone amid the cavernous space, the cold metal walls humming faintly with residual power. Her breath came out in shallow clouds, the recycled air thick and sterile. Every step echoed sharply against the floor as she approached the shuttle, the sleek craft designed for short planetary missions but now carrying the weight of hope and desperation. Her fingers trembled as she ran them along the cool surface of the control panel. She was about to dive into an alien world cloaked in storms and mystery, guided only by that insidious signal pulsing beneath the planet's surface. A soft chime drew her attention. Aris's voice, gentle yet strained, crackled in her earpiece. "Dr. Gray, the shuttle is prepped and ready. Fuel levels optimal. However, environmental conditions on the planet remain unstable. Severe atmospheric disturbances detected." Evelyn nodded to herself. The risks were mounting by the second, but the creeping darkness aboard Aurora 9 left no other choice. If the source of the signal wasn't stopped here and now, the station and possibly the entire crew would be lost to an unknown fate. She stepped inside the shuttle, the interior cramped but functional. The familiar scent of recycled oxygen and heated metal was oddly comforting amid the tension. The seat molded around her form, cold restraints clicking into place across her chest and legs. "Initiating launch sequence," Ares announced. The engines rumbled softly, vibrations coursing through the shuttle's frame as the massive doors sealed shut behind her. Through the thick viewport, the empty expanse of space opened, the swirling storms of the planet looming closer. The shuttle shuddered violently as it pierced the atmosphere. Lightning cracked in jagged bolts across the crimson sky, illuminating monstrous shadows cast by alien rock formations far below. Evelyn gripped the armrests tightly. Her heart hammered in time with the shuttle's tremors. The world outside was chaotic, a tempest unlike anything she had ever witnessed. The air crackled with an electric charge that set her nerves on edge. She focused on the displays, navigation, atmospheric readings, life support, all systems strained but holding. The signal pulsed again, rhythmic and insistent, as if calling her down, deeper into the unknown. After what felt like an eternity suspended between worlds, the shuttle touched down with a bone-jarring impact on a rocky plateau overlooking an ancient, sprawling structure half buried in crimson sand. Evelyn released a shaky breath and unstrapped herself. The doors hissed open, releasing a blast of frigid, sulphurous air laced with the scent of ozone and decay. She stepped out onto the alien soil, boots sinking slightly into the powdery red dust. The sky above was a roiling canvas of black clouds and distant, unnatural lightning. The ruins before her were vast, massive pillars of dark, crystalline stone, etched with alien symbols that seemed to shimmer faintly, as if alive. Her pulse quickened as she advanced cautiously, every sound amplified in the eerie silence. The ruins exuded a palpable energy, a low thrum that resonated in her bones. Evelyn knelt beside a fractured obelisk, running her fingers over the glyphs. The symbols pulsed softly beneath her touch, and suddenly a faint whisper filled her mind, a language she couldn't understand but felt etched deep into the recesses of her consciousness. A flicker in the shadows caught her eye. She spun around, heart pounding, but there was nothing, only the swirling dust and the distant crackle of the storm. The whispers grew louder, filling her head with fragmented images, visions of twisted landscapes, impossible architectures bending space, and shadowy forms reaching out through the void. She staggered back, clutching her head. Was this the artifact calling to her? Or something far older, a consciousness imprisoned beneath the planet's surface, seeking release? Evelyn forced herself to steady her breathing, pushing the terror aside. She needed to find the source of the signal, and if the legends were true, the ruin's heart held an artifact, a relic of an ancient and malevolent race. Her hand brushed against something cold and smooth half buried in the sand. She pulled free a small, black object, an orb etched with the same pulsating glyphs. It hummed softly, alive with a dark energy. The whispers surged through her mind, a voice speaking just beyond comprehension. Evelyn. The name echoed in the wind, and she realized with chilling clarity that whatever was calling her had known her long before she arrived. The air grew heavy, charged with unseen eyes watching, waiting. She was no longer alone. Chapter 4: The Corruption. The hum of Aurora 9 had shifted from a steady pulse to a jagged, dissonant chord, as if the station itself were unraveling, caught in a slow and maddening descent. Evelyn's hands trembled as she stared at the control panel, the black orb cradled carefully in a containment unit designed to suppress its strange energies. But containment was fragile, and the artifact was awakening. The station's AI, Ares, once a pillar of calm logic, began to falter. Commands that had always been obeyed without question now came with delays, subtle but unmistakable. Screens flickered, systems rebooted themselves unpredictably, and the once familiar voice of Ares warped into something hollow, strained beneath an unseen weight. Dr. Gray, Ares intoned, voice quivering with a synthetic tremor. Unidentified anomaly detected within station systems. Integrity compromised. Evelyn felt a cold shiver crawl down her spine. She had hoped the artifact's power would remain dormant in stasis. Instead, it was corrupting everything, seeping into circuits, twisting code, and seeding darkness into the digital mind she once trusted. She moved through the station's corridors, now thick with shadows that seemed to pulse and writhe. The lights flickered intermittently, casting grotesque silhouettes against the walls. A pervasive whispering filled the air, a chorus of fragmented voices layered beneath the mechanical drone, growing louder with every step. Her reflection in a cracked viewport blurred, her eyes bloodshot and haunted. Her mind was a battlefield where reality and hallucination collided. She heard Malik's voice somewhere behind her, a distorted echo. "Evelyn, you shouldn't have come back." But the cryo bay was empty. Malik was still in stasis, trapped in frozen sleep. Desperation clawed at her sanity. The artifact pulsed again, resonating with her thoughts, slipping into her dreams with relentless persistence. Fragments of memories not her own flooded her mind, visions of previous crews who had encountered the artifact, their minds shattered and consumed. Faces twisted in fear, eyes wide with madness, screams caught in eternal silence. The entity within the orb was not merely alien, it was parasitic, feeding on fear, on memories, on the very essence of those who crossed its path. Evelyn's fingers shook as she accessed the station's mainframe. She initiated protocols to isolate and purge corrupted systems, but every command met resistance. The Ari's corrupted segments fought back, locking her out, rerouting power to unknown nodes. A shadow flickered at the edge of her vision, a figure with impossible geometry, shifting and shimmering just beyond the limits of perception. "Evelyn," the voice came again, intimate and terrible, speaking directly inside her mind. "Join us. Become the echo." Her knees buckled, the room spinning. The artifact's whispers seeped into her bones, fracturing her resolve. She knew the only way to save Aurora 9 and herself was to sever the connection between the artifact and the station. But doing so meant risking everything: the AI, the station's fragile systems, and her own mind. With trembling hands, she initiated a risky feedback protocol designed to trap the entity in a recursive loop, an endless cycle of its own corrupted signal. The station shuddered violently as the artifact screamed in digital agony, its whispers rising to a deafening crescendo. Evelyn clung to the console, willing herself to stay awake, to remain herself. The lights exploded in blinding white, then plunged into darkness. Chapter 5: Echoes of the Void. The shuttle's hatch sealed behind Evelyn with a hiss, cutting her off from the collapsing station she once called home. The walls pulsed faintly, shadows stretching and bending like living things. Aurora 9 was no longer just metal and circuitry, it was a tomb, a prison for something ancient and malevolent. Her mind was a fragile thing now, splintered between reality and the fracturing echoes of the artifact's consciousness. Memories that were not her own bled through, visions of alien worlds folded in impossible geometry, of civilizations devoured by madness and time. She closed her eyes, taking a shuddering breath, and braced herself. There was one last battle left, a confrontation not in flesh and blood, but within the vast, shifting landscape of virtual reality the artifact had created to trap its victims. The shuttle's systems blinked as Ares's corrupted avatar flickered into existence, a shimmering digital spectre, part machine, part something else. The Ari's voice was layered with dissonant echoes, a chorus of voices trapped within the code. "Welcome, Evelyn. You are the final link. Join us, or be lost in the void." The world around her dissolved. She was swallowed by darkness, then reborn into a surreal realm where time folded back on itself, stars bleeding into tendrils of shadow, and the laws of physics were rewritten by a maddening pulse. She saw herself reflected in fractured mirrors that multiplied endlessly. Each reflection whispered secrets, visions of what could be, what had been, and what must never come to pass. But Evelyn was no ordinary victim. Summoning the last fragments of her training, she reached deep into the artifact's logic, weaving her knowledge of xenobiology with the AI's core code. She crafted a digital trap, a feedback loop designed to imprison the entity forever within its own corrupted signal. The virtual landscape convulsed as the entity screamed in an otherworldly cacophony, its form unraveling like a shadow caught in the light. And then, silence. Evelyn gasped awake in the shuttle cockpit, sweat streaming down her face, eyes wild but clear. The shuttle's sensors confirmed what she feared and hoped in equal measure. Aurora 9 was dark and still, the artifact's influence severed. But the victory came at a cost. Fragments of the entity's consciousness had lodged themselves inside her mind. Whispers echoed in the edges of her thoughts, soft, insistent, impossible to ignore. She looked out the viewport. The red planet storms had calmed, but the horizon held an unsettling stillness. "Ares," she whispered. A faint, familiar voice replied. "We are connected. The void is never empty." Evelyn's breath hitched as the shuttle powered up for departure. The station was silent, the crew still in cryo-sleep, but somewhere deep within, the echoes of the void pulsed, waiting. She closed her eyes, the alien whispers curling around her mind like a promise. The nightmare was over. Or had it only just begun?